So, I have a friend, let's call her Lori, who always wants to participate in group activities but never contributes. I mean never contributes in the financial sense, and most of the time, it never really bothered me. We share a friend group of 6 people, and everyone else and I always contributed extra for things like concerts, weekend trips, and so on, just so Lori could tag along and not feel excluded from the group. In high school, it was because Lori came from a poorer family than the rest of us and wasn't able to get a job due to parentification, since she had 4 younger siblings to take care of. Then in college, it was because she couldn't work and maintain her grades without losing her scholarship. Now, she can't contribute anything because she's struggling financially and doesn't have the means to save anything. I got pissed, admittedly, when I heard this because I've seen her spend her money in crap ways, and how dare she do this when we've been planning this trip for over 4 years. I know it's awful to look at what someone has and judge their finances, but Lori is the same person who had no expenses during the pandemic, because she was living with me and my great-grandmother. She didn't pay for groceries, wasn't charged rent, still had her job, and was getting hazard pay. Lori waited until it was time to start paying for everything to say she didn't have it. She said this to me one-on-one, while we were out shopping for the trip, her idea to go shopping by the way. And Lori wanted to go to stores that weren't cheap. I asked if she was sure, and she claimed she wanted to treat herself. I watched this girl spend just over $1,300 in one afternoon. Then we went to lunch, and she had the nerve to tell me she couldn't afford the trip, a whopping $2,683 per person for 15 days. Of course, I said no, and guess what? She brought in the rest of the group 2 days later, and all of them were on board with splitting her expenses. Translation: they would cover half the costs among them, and I'd be stuck with the other half because I make the most money. Saying no means I'm the jerk, and me calling Lori out for blowing half of what she'd have to pay for the trip on crap she didn't need was too harsh and uncalled for. They claimed that she deserved to feel good about herself after the life she had. Excuse me? Like I wasn't raised by my grandparents, neglected by my parents in favor of their stepchildren, working through high school, and maintaining my grades to be valedictorian. Like I wasn't struggling until I got a good internship because I had to work. Yeah, I'm financially secure now, but why the hell should Lori be rewarded for bad spending habits? They're all upset now because I told them I'd go on a trip by myself. They didn't think I'd cancel it and go through with booking a trip for myself. It's costing me more, but screw them. They want Lori to go on a trip, they can plan one and take her without me involved. Commenter: that's crazy, what kind of mental hold does she have on you folks? What does she bring to the group that allows her to mooch off of everyone? Ops response: it's legitimately just pity at this point. All of them focus heavily on how she had an awful life growing up, which I'm not gonna discredit. Lori's life sucked, and the only way she was able to do anything with us was if my grandparents watched her siblings. But can she seriously use that as an excuse to be so irresponsible for the rest of her life? Like seriously, she blew half the cost of the trip in my freaking face. Commenter: that's an expensive leech, but I'm glad you finally called her out. It probably should have happened a long time ago. Are the other people aware that the moment she asked, or rather demanded, you pay for her trip, she had just spent half of that trip's cost on random stuff a few hours prior? If not, that's information they need. If they don't care about that, they weren't really your friends either. If you look back at the group dynamic, are you the one who usually ends up paying a bigger share just because you have a better paying job? Or did the others contribute equally, and Lori was the only leech? Ops response: at first, Lori was the only leech, but with the ongoing text argument I'm having, my eyes are starting to open. Yeah, I've been the one footing a larger share. It wasn't obvious at first, but what's expected of me as a friend is disproportionate to what's expected of them. Update 1. Seriously, I get called mean, selfish, cruel, and a bunch of other insults for not bankrolling an idiot's life, decide to cut contact and end the friendship, and now they want to make up? Lori, the primary leech, has horrible spending habits, think Carrie Bradshaw from SAC. She'll blow her money on designer clothing and shoes and then ask you to cover her expenses for trips, and the more I think about how much money I've wasted on her over the years, the angrier I become. Lori has apparently burned more bridges in the week or so I've been no contact. They apparently decided that they can't afford to bring Lori on a similar trip to what I had originally planned for us, which was supposed to be 15 days split between Portugal, Spain, and Italy. One of the people in the group, Jenna, went to my grandpa because she couldn't get in contact with me. I had blocked all of them, mainly because I got sick of arguing. Grandpa told her now wasn't a good time and refused to give her any details. She came back 4 days in a row until he relented. He called me for her and gave me the gist of things before I told him to send her to a local coffee shop. The meeting with Jenna went to hell in a handbasket. She started by telling me that the group had planned a new trip, and she knows I'm mad, but canceling on them and then not sharing the agency was really cruel. They found an agency to travel through, but to keep the time they had off from work would mean they would have to pay more, and the cheapest they could get was $4,000 a person. I didn't respond, mainly because she continued to blame me for their crap like it wasn't their fault I canceled and stopped talking to them. When I told her that it was their fault, Jenna agreed that it was. She revealed that they tried to talk Lori into returning everything she bought so she could contribute to her part. In her words, they can't afford half the things I can. Jenna personally believes that Lori's need for designer things is because of me. I didn't snap immediately at this and let her ramble about it. I know you don't notice it, but you're always wearing nice things and spending money on nice places. You're always buying expensive makeup, getting your nails and hair done, and whatnot. She just wants that lifestyle too, and it's like you're rubbing it in her face. Honestly, all of us are to blame. Well, yes, I do spend my money on those things, but as I told Lori, and now Jenna, I can afford that lifestyle. I budget for those things, I thrift shop, and a good number of my nice things are second-hand. Yes, I put a lot of effort into my appearance, but I also live below my means. I live in the house my great-grandmother owns outright, pay utilities, shop in bulk in local markets for food, and have good insurance that covers great-grandma's medical expenses. I again, thrift for my nicer things, or save for them, or wait for a sale. I have enough in my lost my job savings account to last a year. Yes, I have a savings account just for that, and I continue to add to it from every paycheck. Everyone that knows me is aware of how I can afford what I afford. I don't make an effort to hide this. However, it is not my fault Lori refuses to be smart with her spending. I said all of this to Jenna, and she had the nerve to start crying. She said not everyone can have that type of security, and unlike me, they can't afford a last-minute trip, and Lori especially couldn't. I cut her off when she started on Lori's sad childhood and just let her have it. I told her she was fixated on my finances and lifestyle, but that wasn't my fault. She and the rest of the group all have decent careers, they all had better safety nets than I did, and it made them complacent. I didn't have that, and yes, I was middle class growing up, but I wasn't as well off as them. Yes, I had a grandpa who would spoil me, but it wasn't to the extent they think. I still drive his old Impala, but they all thought I had been the first to get a car in our group because I was spoiled. They didn't consider the fact that his eyesight was going bad, and he couldn't drive me around like their parents did, so I took up driving. And don't get me started on college itself. Lori had a financial aid package because she was poor, Jenna and the rest had family that could pay off their tuition and living costs, and I barely got any aid and had to work because my grandparents couldn't afford it, and my parents refused to acknowledge me. If I hadn't landed an internship-turned-career that paid off my education, I'd still be in debt. Jenna kept crying. I told her to stop, that I'm sick of them and their crying. I threw her getting cut off by her parents in her face, told her that it was because she's a financial leech just like Lori, and that was her problem. I'm sick of them acting like I'm the problem, and I was done listening to her efforts to villainize me. Rather than whining, maybe she should think about why her parents cut her off and why I am also cutting her off, because she likes to blame everyone and everything for her failures. I shouldn't have said it, but I did. You got kicked out for stealing someone's essay, you wasted their money, and I damn sure won't let you waste mine. Grow the hell up, and don't ever bother my family again. Then I left her there crying. Not my finest moment, but seriously, what the actual hell is wrong with people?